Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way. When you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Well, I mean, that's interesting, right? I mean, those are the issues. That's not race or female this or female that. And the cackling Kamala, who is now the supposedly has been coordinated as the Democrat candidate for president without a single vote. She didn't get one vote. She didn't get one primary vote. She didn't get one vote for president. And yet she's being installed by elites. Isn't that crazy? Have you ever seen something like this? Did you ever see something like this would happen? It's okay if Joe Biden resigns and leaves, then she takes over. You know, that's different. That's normal. That's constitutional. But to let him stay in and to literally listen to this, we removed a sitting president because, the Democrats did, not us, but the Democrats removed a sitting president because his polling numbers weren't good enough for them. Do you believe that? Do you actually believe it was his polling numbers, or was it because the man's senile? Isn't that interesting? Which one is it? I don't think it's his polling numbers. I think it's senile. And yes, one of the producers holding up a money sign, the money of this country said he's not going to win, and so we're gonna install a new president. Isn't that insane? Do you think one person struggling paycheck to paycheck in this country voted for her? Did one person in this country struggling paycheck to paycheck have a chance to vote for her in this? Did any African-American person, because they're going to play the total race card on this, have a chance? By the way, the Breakfast Club, which is like everybody humps that guy's leg, Charlamagne the God, because he's black and he has a radio show all over the black stations. He's highly influential, supposedly. I don't know. But that, you've seen him anytime he goes on any show, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so awesome. Read the tea leaves for us. Fine. He endorsed her. He's excited about her now. Woo! Okay. Maybe that'll do it. I don't know. But the polling is right in front of me. I'll share that with you in a second. But I want to ask you a few questions. Or as Dwayne would say, I want to ask you a few questions. Is she the best they have against Trump? Do you think she's the best the Democrats have against Trump, cackling Kamala? Will she get all the black female votes because of the fact that she's black? Or do you think? I have this feeling. I don't know everything, and I don't claim to ever know anything about all the political stuff, but I want to tell you this. I have a feeling in my gut, and I have a feeling that she's going to end up being the sacrificial lamb to lose to Trump. We don't know. None of us knows, do we, how this will all play out. But I have a feeling she's going to be the sacrificial lamb to lose to Trump. Like the installed person, the handpicked chosen successor, even though she hasn't been elected, who's going to be made mincemeat out of. One of the things I read today was saying Democrats don't like her. They don't think she can win. Pelosi doesn't think she can win. In fact, there's no way they want to have Gavin Newsom, greedy Gretchen Whitmer, and some of these other high-profile Democrats, Andy Beshear, Gavin Newsom, whatever, all these people. They're not going to have them wait 8 years to 2032. Do you really think they're going to let the cackler be in charge for 8 years when, don't you think it's worth them to lose and have a top candidate come out in 4 years? She's a disposable presidential candidate, isn't she? Now, we don't know. What do we know? The real question is, What do the independents think of her? And I heard today there's only 4%. One of the pollsters on Fox said today, like 4% of the votes is what's going to do it, and those are the swing people. I don't think the swing people, the independents, like her. I don't think she's very likable. I think the leg humpers like her because she's young, she's black, and that's all they care about. Like our DEI Secret Service director, who should resign today or tomorrow after what we saw today and after what we saw on the day of President's almost assassination, President Trump's. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Here's the questions. Is she the best they have against Trump, the Democrats? Will she get the black and female votes, all of them? Is she the sacrificial lamb that's going to lose to Trump, and they know it? Will she lose on a landslide? Is it possible? You know what I thought about? RFK Jr. Don't you think this will get him more votes? Not from Trump, from her. The Trump votes are already in the numbers. And can she win in the swing states where DEI and San Francisco liberalism may not play? Like, I see her in Michigan getting the Muslim votes now because she's not a friend of the Jews. In fact, guess what they said on CNN? That Josh Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania, and he would be a perfect hit, and he's a moderate Democrat. He's a serious threat. But here's the thing. He's Jewish. CNN said that today. Because he's Jewish, she probably won't pick him because that's a liability. A Jew is a liability, guys. God help us. Is Hitler running? No, it's just the Democrat. They literally said that on fake news CNN today. Because Shapiro is Jewish, he would probably be a liability. So the party of liberal Democrats, the party of Democrats has become the Jew haters. It's sick. It's sad. And then, do you think any vice presidential candidate could help Kathleen Kamala win this fall? I don't think so. Because they're going to look at 8 years of the cackler and they're not going to like it. I think the average people that are not leg-humping Democrats. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. A reminder, one of the stories I shared with you earlier, Biden delayed dropping out partly because he doubted Kamala could even win against Trump. And here's another key one right here from the Politico today. Some swing state Democrats skeptical of Harris are withholding their endorsements. The vulnerable swing state Democrats are withholding their endorsements of her because it'll hurt them. That's bad for the independents then and the moderates. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Chime in right now. Lines are wide open for the first time in the entire show so far. Is she the best they have against Trump? Will she get all the black and female votes? Is she the sacrificial lamb that will lose to Trump? And will it be a landslide if she loses? And can she win the swing states where DEI and California liberalism may not play out? And do you think any vice presidential candidate could actually help her? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. I think she's so overpowering of a presence with her, who she is and everything. And I don't mean that in a nice way. I don't think it's going to matter. When you see somebody when you look through it at independent eyes, you see somebody who's basically a dunce and who can't communicate well at all without contradicting herself. That's not attractive. And the cackle, seriously, it really, nobody thinks that laugh is good. You need to cut it out. Wasn't there a Seinfeld episode about a nasty laugh that annoyed the heck out of people? Was it Elaine's laugh? Or was it something else? I don't know. I didn't watch every Seinfeld episode, and I don't know it like the back of my hand like others do, but I seem to remember something like that. I'm going to give you the polls. How is the Kathleen Kamala polling? We have 3 lines open, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Chime in right now and get on in the next segment with us. And I've got more audio, too. You'll hear more of the blunders of Kathleen Kamala. You'll hear doubts even from one of the black Democrats here in North Texas. All that's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
And then my mother would tell a funny story about how, like, one day and I was fussing, and so I'm fussing and fussing. It's much cuter when she would tell the story, but she'd say, so then she would look down at me and, Kamala, what do you want? What do you want? And I looked back up at her and I said, freedom!
Oops. She stole that from Dr. King. You know that? That was his story, not hers. She ripped it off, and she plagiarized just like good old Joe. All right, questions. Is she the best they have against Trump? Kamala, will she get all the black and female votes? Is she the sacrificial lamb to lose to Trump? Will she lose in a landslide? Can she win the swing states where DEI and California, San Francisco liberalism may not play? And do you think any vice presidential candidate could help Kathleen Kamala win this fall? 800-288-WBAP is our number. 4 lines open. 800-288-9227. Randall in Mansfield. Thanks for listening to WBAP.
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
Love your show.
Thank you.
And we appreciate what you do getting the truth out to the American people.
Thank you.
And no way Kamala Harris can win. I don't think she'll get the black votes. I think they're beefing the numbers up to make it look like she's going to get more votes. That's my opinion.
I will tell you that Fox News has some stuff, and it's not the best. It's a little bit better than Joe. New York Times assessed Harris falls about 2 percentage points behind Trump in recent polls, 46-48 nationally. Biden polled 3 points below, so that's 1 point better. New York Times Siena College poll in battleground state Pennsylvania, which is critical. She was only behind Trump by 1 in a hypothetical match. So I guess Biden was, I think Trump was 2 or 3 more than that at least over him with Biden. In Virginia, she actually looks like she's got a 5-point lead compared to Biden's razor-thin margin. She polled slightly than Biden in both of those states. It's in Pennsylvania and Virginia among black voters, younger voters and women, because she's a climate leftist. Washington Post ABC Ipsos poll, July 5 through 9, 70% of Democrats and Democrat-leading independents said they would be satisfied if he withdrew and the cackler was nominated to run. 29% of Democrats and Democrat-leading independents named Harris as their pick in the nomination if Biden bowed out. But that's Democrats and Democrat-leading independents. So, anyway, so she's like, I guess, the best, but she's not very good. One more. AP NORC Center Public Affairs Research last week found 6 in 10 Democrats believe she would do a good job. 2 in 10 do not believe she would, and another 2 in 10 say they don't know enough. CNN poll, July 2nd, 3/4 of voters say Democrats would have a better chance of keeping the White House if somebody else other than Biden. So anyways, just little tidbits there. She'll do a little bit better, but I don't know. How
do you really think that those polls are very accurate at this early?
Well, I can tell you this.
Biden.
All the polls at this point 4 years ago showed Trump losing by 5 to 10 points in a lot of these critical states and such, okay? The same ones show Trump leading ever so slightly compared to the cackler in some of these critical states, but nonetheless leading. So we're looking good, but this is not at all a slam dunk. We could lose to the cackler. We really could luse to her. I hate to say that, but we really could. That would be horrific.
That would be terrible for our country.
I mean, it'd be worse than Joe, I think. I don't know. This woman's she's like, a brain dead Joe might be better. I mean, I'm being serious. Right. I don't know.
You are right. I agree.
Because the people who are running this are the unelected bureaucrats are running the show. His aides, people in the government. She'll be running it, and she won't let anybody else run it. And this woman's an idiot.
Yep. She'll destroy our country.
Yeah, she's an idiot, and she will destroy our image further, and we will descend into a banana republic of some sort. I really think so.
We got to win.
Yeah, which means Trump's got to be disciplined. He's his own worst enemy. I always say it. I want him more than anything to win, but he's his own worst enemy.
We say that all the time, just like the last election. If he would have just calmed down just a little bit, he could have changed some of the people's votes.
He's moving in the right direction, but he still falls back about a quarter to half the time, so he's got to really watch it. Thanks for your call, Randall. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Here's what CBS, it's not CNN, CBS reported. Frank Biden talked to them, Joe's little brother. Wait till you hear this, and wait till you hear what they said. They destroyed his reputation moments after he said this. Ready?
CBS News had a brief conversation with Frank Biden, one of President Biden's two younger brothers, and here's what he told us. He said, "I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine hero. Country over self. It sounds corny in our cynical political environment, but he nor I are cynical. The goal remains the same: defeat Trump and continue the work that Joe has done. My hope is that our party rallies around this heroic act." We asked him whether he feels that his brother's overall health and vitality played a major role in this decision, and he says, "In my humble opinion, absolutely." So a member of the president's family now confirming that the president's health was indeed a major factor.
Remember, they reported in that report that he had just spoken to Joe 2 weeks ago on the phone. He would know. Guess what they did? Guess what the Biden campaign did? They destroyed Frank Biden immediately, badly, personally. He was sick. Ready? Quote, Frank Biden suffers from alcoholism and hasn't spoken to his brother in weeks. What he said is completely untrue, was the quote to CBS. Isn't that insane? They lead with he's an alcoholic. I thought Democrats were the party of compassion and just saying he's wrong and he's mistaken, he's horribly mistaken, and he should never have said that. No, instead you attack him. First thing you say is an alcoholic. How shame on you, seriously. Number two, if you think the cackler, Kamala, has a great chance of doing it, wait till you hear how all the polls have to align. There's so many things, regardless of whether it's her, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be her. She has the delegates, according to fake news CNN tonight. She now has the number of delegates to secure it. It's over. You can see some white guy like Bashir or what's his name, Pritzker, come out and try to beat her, and then they're going to go down in flames because of the race card with the Democrats. No one's going to challenge her. It's over. Okay. Randy in Jacksboro, we'll get to your call next. Plus, I have several things that Kamala, literally several, like 6 or 7 things, boom, 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 she has to do that, whether she was Einstein or anybody, are next to impossible to pull off. Will she pull it off? I highly doubt it because of what we've talked about tonight. I'll share that with you next, and more audio on Kathleen Kamala and her chances coming up next. And then we'll get into the Secret Service Director's testimonies as well. This is incredible stuff, too. We're in amazing times right now. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
I've heard from inside Republican circles and right-wing media that the hate campaign against Kamala Harris has begun. You'll notice they purposefully pronounce her name wrong.
If now the country is offered all of Joe Biden's policies with someone who's essentially half his age and they can't get over the line, what does that say about the American people and our willingness to have a black woman as our president?
We hear all of what we know are going to be a lot of misogynistic, sexist, racist attacks on her. We got to be ready. So are you all ready?
Every attack against Kathleen Kamala is racist and sexist. There's no such thing as a valid attack. You can't attack her unless you're a racist or sexist. That's the only reason why you would attack her, obviously. She actually has a real challenge ahead of her. Quote from my friend Eric Erickson, top blogger. Rush used to quote him all the time. Kamala Harris has to staff a campaign. She has to decide whether or not to trust the Biden operation, which has not been doing great. She's got to have a team theme at the DNC and plan it, design it, modify the design, etc. How much of a disaster is that going to be? Who knows? she's also got to find a running mate. She's got to find her own messaging that puts her distance between her and Biden. She's got to fundraise. It's a daunting task. She'll also have to discern between those who want to help and those who are just climbing ladders for themselves. On top of all this, she's got to consolidate the Democrats behind her to avoid a fight. It is an incredible undertaking in a limited amount of time. Although they are coalescing on her because it's over. She, according to fake news CNN, has gotten the delegates secured to win the nomination tonight. I'm not surprised. She's been coronated. The elites have chosen her. Nobody voted for her. And that's okay with the Democrat Party, unfortunately. Look at this. Democrats challenge RFK Jr.'s access to the Texas ballot. More fights against democracy. This is a threat to democracy. This party is taking people off the ballot that it doesn't want to challenge its candidate. This party is installing its nominee without one vote. Isn't this insane? And lastly, even her ex-boyfriend, Montel Williams, says no, she should not be the leading person on the Democrat ticket. No. He says Wes Moore, the leader of his home state of Maryland, the governor, I know leadership when I see it. He wants Wes Moore, not Kamala's ex-girlfriend. He knows something we don't know. Oh, boy. Has anybody not dated her? Do we need to open a phone line for people that have not dated her to call in? Because it's like what's his name? Remember Tiger? Were there any girls that he hasn't slept with? Please call in. We had a hotline for them to call in on that night. We didn't get any takers. No women apparently listening had not slept with him. It was terrible. Okay, we have 3 lines open. 800-288-WBAP. 800-288-9227. Is Kamala the best they have against Trump? But will she get all the black and female votes? Is she a sacrificial lamb to lose to Trump? Can she win the swing states where DEI and California liberalism may not play? And do you think any vice presidential candidate could actually help with this fall? I don't. She's not going to die like Joe or frail or incapacitated like Joe, so it's not relevant. It really is not relevant. She might try to get a swing state governor, but other than that, no. It's not really not relevant. I mean, she's either going to off-put you or not. Her policies are either going to be for you or against you, in your opinion, whatever. So, no, I don't think so. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Chime in right now. Let's go to Randy in Jacksboro. Randy, thanks for listening to WBAP.
Hey, thanks a lot. Good evening.
Good evening.
A lot of Republicans are still not on board with Trump, and I had a real problem with them in Congress continuing to push for the removal of Biden. I think Trump creams Biden, but without him on the ticket now, it's going to be really close.
So say that again. You think it's going to be really close because of Kamala?
Biden will not. Yes, because Kamala will be on the ticket, and I think she'll get quite a bit of the black vote, and I think she'll get the women's vote. Because you got to remember, in our past elections, about half of the people in the United States are not very smart. They voted for Hillary and they voted for Biden.
I think that she'll get the wine moms who want to bed down with Gavin Newsom. They love her because she's an abortionist. And they can say, I'm voting for a black woman, even though they're like the most racist people there are out there. And so they're guilted into, playing this DEI garbage instead of just voting for who the best candidate is. I think the wine moms will go for her in the suburbs. I think you're right. It's very sad and disturbing. And then the other party was who you think is...
Well, I think there's still not a lot of Republicans in Congress that are big supporters of Trump. If you looked at the RNC convention,
well, that's not relevant. It's the people. It's the people, not the Congress people. So
yeah, but they still were pushing Biden. They were also trying to push Biden out.
Here's the thing:
we were better off leaving Biden in.
Yeah, I think so too. But we didn't.
We all knew he was a nut job.
Right.
And they lost his facilities. So why get rid of a guy?
I agree. But that's why they did it. They removed him because they still didn't say he's incapacitated mentally. They said it's because he can't win. Have you ever heard of somebody being dethroned before an election because they, quote, can't win? It's all a lie. Will that play out at all? Will people be bothered by this at all? Or if they welcome this and they vote for this, then honestly, for this kind of undemocratic threat to democracy by overthrowing a president, a gentle coup, It is a coup. It's a soft coup. They've removed him. The elites have removed him against his will. Nancy Pelosi threatened him that she's going to come out with a lot of bad stuff publicly. She said she gave him 2 weeks of being nice. This was it. She was going to play hardball and go public with all the horrible stuff she was going to share about his statistics and such in polling. She threatened him. He resigned under duress, not because he wanted to. Mike and Garland, you are on WBAP. What's up?
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, listen, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you tonight as a black man. I'm black, and let me tell you something. I got a daughter, and believe me, I don't want her to look up to somebody like Kamala, who you know what her past is, what she did when she was younger, and you know the type of work that she used to do. And I don't want my daughter to emulate or say I want to be like Kamala. That's an insult. If my daughter came to me and told me she wanted to be like Kamala, I would be appalled.
Why?
Because this woman here.
Yeah.
What?
Why?
Because you know what she did. She had sex with a married man when she was in San Francisco, California.
You mean Willie Brown? Mayor Willie Brown?
Willie Brown.
Yeah.
Would you want your daughter to be like Kamala? To rise to fame like Kamala?
The relations with a man out of wedlock who's in wedlock? No.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to say. That's why I say I don't want my daughter.
Not everybody knows everything. So
believe me, my wife, which is black, and she's not going to vote for Kamala either. What Donald Trump has to be very careful of in this situation, because I listened to Kamala on the radio today when she was talking, and she's already trying to talk like she's a prosecutor. She's trying to make Donald Trump out to be a rapist and a molester. She says, "I've dealt with people like you before,
right?
When I was a prosecutor,
right?
And I know how to handle you. You know you've been indicted on found guilty of assaulting women. So she's already trying to make Donald Trump out to be a rapist and a womanizer.
Right. And remember, she literally looked at Joe Biden's face and called him a racist.
Oh yeah, she's a two-faced snake because, like you said, she said Joe Biden was a racist. Then a couple of days later, a couple of weeks later, she turns around and be his vice president. But like I said before,
well, hold on one second. If she called Biden a racist to the world as a Democrat, what is she going to call Trump and say it to Trump in person?
Oh yeah, like I said, she basically said that he was a molester and he assaulted women, and you know he has the past. And she used to deal with people when she was like Trump when she was a prosecutor.
I'm just saying though that she's going to be 10 times worse on Trump than she was on Biden.
Oh yeah. Well, like I told you, Chris, you know she's a very dumb individual, but you got to be very, very careful with Kamala because, like you said before, she can win this election because Donald Trump, he doesn't want to offend women. He's got to be real careful what he says about her when it comes to the women, because there's a lot of women who will turn against Donald Trump if he says something that a woman finds offensive, and he needs the women's vote to get back in the White House.
So it sounds like you agree with most.
Very careful.
Yes, it sounds like you agree with most people tonight that she is more of a threat than Joe Biden was.
Oh yeah. Well, they said that her points have already gone up. They added up some of the numbers. Whether these numbers are right or not, they're saying that her numbers look better than Joe Biden's.
She has to hide though, because you know how she has to hide though, because the more she goes public and talks and does things, the more she sounds like an idiot.
Oh yeah. I listened to her today. And she's still giggling, you know, when I don't know if you listened to her, Joe Biden was on the telephone talking to her.
Yeah,
and she found that real funny when Joe Biden said that he was, that he had endorsed her. So she's still, like I told my wife, even though she's 60 years old, she has the personality of my 14-year-old daughter.
A child. Yes,
she has the personality of a child, but she's 60 years old, and I think that might hurt her from trying to get in the way. And one other thing,
I think so too. I think the more let me say this with you, brother. The more people get to know her, the more they're not going to like her. Go ahead. That's key. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, let me ask you this question right quick before I hang up with you. What do you think Vladimir Putin, when she's sitting across the table from Vladimir Putin and she starts cackling and laughing like that? What do you think?
You know what he's going to do? You know what he's going to do?
She's sitting across the table.
I know what he's going to do. I know what he's going to do. He's going to treat her with such utter respect and like a royal, and she'll be so flattered and she'll be blinky-eyed, and then he's going to whoop her ass. No, I know it. He's going to do it He's going to do it publicly and kiss her butt in a meeting and treat her like royalty, and then he's going to eat her alive when she turns her back and destroy her in our country. That woman is the most perfect tool for Iran, for Russia, for China and North Korea. This woman they will destroy her, but they're going to kiss her ass to make her, excuse my language, to make her feel special. And that's going to make her let down her guard because she's an idiot, and then they're going to destroy her. They're going to do exactly what they want. They're going to take from her right in front of her eyes after they lull her. Go ahead, sir. Last point.
Well, let me say one last thing before hanging with you, Chris. Hopefully, the American people, all you got to do is like we live in Texas, Chris. We see on a daily basis what has happened with the United States border being open.
Yeah.
You can go by what Greg Abbott said today. Guess who's in charge of the United States border? Joe Biden gave her the job as the border czar,
right.
and now we got 15 to 20 million people in the United States here illegally. So that tells you all you need to know
Absolutely
about Kamala.
correct.
And I thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Great call, Mike, as always. Appreciate you. Keep calling in. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, bipartisan contempt. Congressmen on both sides laugh at the Secret Service director today. You'll hear that next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3.
Drone over the area, period. Any part of the area.
Again, I would have to go back and check the timeline of when that took place and when the event.
Why didn't you bring the timeline with you today to answer our questions?
I don't have all of the answers on the timelines based on the criminal investigation.
Were you not prepared today to answer our questions?
I am prepared to answer the questions based on the information and wanted to be able to provide.
Do you have a timeline at all from any of the day?
I have a timeline that does not have specifics.
That's shocking. That is absolutely unacceptable. That means you're a failure at your job.
This is bipartisan. Let's hear, I think Ro Khanna, a liberal Democrat from California, said this too. Hey, listen.
Director Cato, would you agree that this is the most serious security lapse since President Reagan was shot in 1981 of the Secret Service?
Yes, sir, I would.
And, do you know what Stuart Knight did when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? Do you know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned.
This woman is grossly inept and grossly incompetent. I mean, what's amazing is have we seen this kind of bipartisanship? Listen to this. Jamie Raskin, the insanely leftist liberal Democrat, the top Democrat on the panel at this hearing, called this session an unusually depressing hearing today. The grilling of the Secret Service chief, Kimberly Cheadle, who was picked by Nurse Jill, a.k.a. not a Dr. Jill, literally handpicked her, and her bestie, Anthony Brunel, was a top staffer for Biden, literally insisted on her. He worships and humps the leg of DEI. And she said she'll have 30% women in the Secret Service by 2030. When we saw what 30% women by 2030 means, we saw three women who were, compared to Trump and his height, they were midgets. They came up to his chest. They could not protect his head, his upper chest at all. They were unable to do that. Some of them couldn't holster their guns after repeated attempts. You saw that in front of the car. There was no go plan. There was no location. Every time the Secret Service does this operation, I was listening to Dan Bongino on the Great Ones show this weekend, Mark Levin, on the Fox News show, and he has it on Saturday and Sunday. It's really good. Totally different type of show. I like it a lot. Anyway, he said there's always a holding place. So if something bad goes down, they take the subject and they put them in a holding place where they're protected. There was no holding place. There was no escape plan. You saw what they did. They got in some car. They got in a Secret Service car. But they literally, it was a joke. Trump said tonight, too, they tried to take him out on a stretcher. I'm going to play you that audio coming up next. They tried to take Trump out of a stretcher. He had an argument with the Secret Service before he stood up. This is incredible stuff. But Jamie Raskin, top liberal Democrat on the panel, said it's unusually depressing. This relationship is irretrievable at this point. I think the director has lost the confidence of Congress at a very urgent and tender moment in the history of the country. We need to very quickly move beyond this. But Joe Biden has never fired anybody in his entire administration. Why would he fire now? Nurse Jill does not want her to be fired. She'd rather let a president die. Guess what else we're going to find? I strongly believe, and we're already hearing it. Trump campaign says resources were denied. They've been demanding more resources for protection, and they were denied. Meanwhile, Nurse Jill was nearby in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, another thing, and cackling Kamala was nearby, another thing. At the time, they weren't running for president, and yet they were getting Secret Service protection. Why? He says she's lost confidence in Congress. Jamie Raskin said at a very urgent and tender moment in the history of the country, we need to move very quickly beyond this. You'll hear more and more and more. I didn't hear one Democrat defender today. It's unbelievable. They all jumped on and said, you should be fired. You should be out of here. Do you trust this woman, this incompetent woman, Nurse Jill's pick? Do you trust Kimberly Cheadle, director of the Secret Service, to investigate herself? Do you trust her to investigate herself and her team? Do you think heads will roll? And should her head roll? I'll tell you my thoughts, plus yours, coming up next. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227 on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3.